Hello everyone! Welcome to a new chess video. Today I'm going to teach you the easiest chess opening to actually play with the black pieces. First of all, let me fix this. It's backwards. Before I get too annoyed, I'm going to show you a truly amazing and really effective opening that will help you win so many games you'll get tired of using it. If you have less than 2100, less than 2200 ELO, this will work great for you because it's incredible. And look, when your opponent plays e4, the most common move in chess, as you already know of course, we're going to respond with d5. Seriously, ChessTeacher, the Scandinavian defense, yeah, people say it's really bad. But watch out, be careful with this line because it's very easy to play, you'll find it very easy to memorize, and it will bring you incredible results. So first, give it a chance for a moment, and then judge the line. Perfect. Now what do you think will happen when they capture this pawn perhaps? We're going to recapture with the queen. And now the most common thing is for them to attack it with the knight. And now, we have to carefully decide exactly where we're going to place this queen on the board. Well, my suggestion is to place the queen right on this particular square here. Why? Because it's a square where the queen will be very difficult to attack on the chessboard. Notice that when a piece is 2 squares diagonally from a knight, that knight needs 4 moves to attack it. In other words, a lot. And there isn't any other piece that can attack it directly either. Therefore, the queen on a 5 is indeed currently on a very safe square, certainly. And now, why is this line so easy? Well, you're always going to develop your pieces to the same places on the board. This is an advantage. You just have to think about where those pieces go. And then, in your games, almost without even thinking, you'll just place them there. Look, ChessTeacher, where does this knight go? Well, we'll just place it right here on c6, which is a very solid square on the board. Also in the center of the board, to control many more squares. Just like the other knight, which we'll now place on f6. Just to clarify, notice, okay? Now I'm moving the black pieces first, just as an example, and then we'll see it all together. And I'll show you some really interesting traps that you're going to love in this opening. And you'll be able to use them a lot. Many people actually fall for them quite often. Also, if you like this opening and would like to see more like it, please give the video a big like, as it really helps the channel, and I won't ramble on any longer. Where does this bishop go? We'll always place this bishop right here, preferably after this knight has moved out of the way. We'll see that later. And now, we'll castle long in order to place this rook on this semi-open file. Seems easy, right? So let's start looking at it together, and honestly, I'm telling you, you're really gonna like this particular line, and you'll win a ton of games if you use it. Please pay close attention here. So, for the very first step, place the queen on a 5. Now, let's look at a real game example. What can white play here? Well, the most common move is actually the other knight, specifically knight to f3. So what we need to know is that it's generally better if we take a bit longer to develop this knight. Why? Because if we develop this knight too quickly, there are some ideas with d4 to come in and attack us very fast, which can actually be a bit annoying and uncomfortable. Therefore, what we're going to do first, taking advantage of the fact that they've already moved this knight, is to place this bishop here, already creating a slightly annoying and somewhat troublesome pin. So, once we pin the knight with the bishop, our opponent has to decide, right? The most common thing is, so that this pin doesn't bother them, to develop their bishop and place it right in the middle of the pin. As you can see, the pieces will always go to the same places. The order is important. Well, it's actually quite important. When they bring out the knight, I really recommend that you place this bishop here right away, and it's also very important to delay bringing out this other knight just a little bit, for the reasons I mentioned earlier. So now, what move would we play? Well, what I just explained, right? Now it's time, if we have to delay this one, and we've already moved this one, to move the knight to f6. We're developing, it's important, we leave this bishop for last, we develop these 3, and we castle long. For example, white castles, and what are we going to do? Well, now we bring out the other knight, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to castle. Notice this, okay? We have the pieces just as I mentioned before, and they're in a great position. What could white do here? Well, a move that they very often play in this position is h3, and I'm going to show you exactly how to punish it in a truly brutal way. If they want to try to chase away this bishop, don't worry at all, because I defend it like this, and this bishop is not moving from here. Well, could you play backwards? Yes, you could play that, but this is an absolutely brutal trap, and it's going to help you win a ton of games. Maybe this trap is the one that has won me the most games. Take a look. You're giving away the bishop, ChessTeacher. What's going on here? After pawn takes bishop, giving away the bishop, we simply have to do the following. We had to capture this pawn right here, as it was threatening this knight, which was a serious threat. So, it's a knight that has to move in this situation. Can it come here? No, because we capture it. Can it come here? No, because we capture it. Just like here, we also capture it. And here we capture it as well. So the only possible squares that the knight has available are to come here or here. It seems a bit more logical to come here, although the trap actually works in the same way. What we have to do is take advantage of the fact that we've opened this rook file. Look at this, okay? How powerful it is. Even if we don't end up with checkmate, we castle long, and that gives us the open file to attack the king with the rook very easily. Then we bring in the queen to join the attack, and chess teacher, what are you threatening here? Well, kids, it's checkmate on the very next move. So they have to react. The only move to avoid losing immediately in this position is to attempt to create an open and escape square for the king. And what are we going to do if they try to escape? Well, we're not actually going to take the knight here. Instead, what we do is simply push this pawn forward, which attacks the knight in this position. But even more importantly, it also serves the purpose of defending the king's escape route, making sure that the king cannot get away. And now, whatever they do, it's checkmate on the next move, right? For example, if they come here, check. When they come here, checkmate. They can't escape from here. But of course, besides the move f3, our opponent can also choose to play f4. And then, in that case, we can't push this pawn forward because we would be losing the queen as a result. So what exactly should we do if they play f4? Alright, I want you to pay very close attention to the video for a moment because here we're actually going to win no matter what they try. First, we'll go ahead and capture this knight with check. Notice that the only possible move for them is to bring the king over here to this square. So now, how will we continue? Shall we advance the pawn? No. We'll take this pawn here with check. Notice that we're already at this point actively trying to corner the king so that it has absolutely no way out or any possible escape. Where does this king have to go? It seems he has to go back this way, right? Coming over here would already be too dangerous because look, it would be mate in 2 moves. Therefore, this king has to carefully escape this way. And now, let us see how will we continue. It seems simple, it seems complicated. Can anyone guess it? Alright, I'll give you 3 seconds. Let's see if you can guess. Well, the perfect move here is absolutely queen to d4, giving check along the diagonal. Notice that the king is unable to escape in this position because we have the rook. Therefore, the only move they have here is to block the check with the rook. And then we have to respond with this move. Now we'll capture the rook on the next move. Even if they try to defend, here we have a very beautiful way to win, which would be to sacrifice the rook on the back rank. Look, check. They're simply forced to take it because there's absolutely no other option. And now we bring the queen in here, check, and on the next move, checkmate. That's incredible. So, a4, d5, a takes d5, queen takes d5. And when they attack our queen with their knight to c3, we will then relocate the queen to a5. Earlier, we saw what happened when they played knight to f3 in this position. Look, we quickly developed the bishop to pin this knight. But what happens then? Here, the white pieces have several options. They're not always going to play knight to f3. That's why I repeat over and over again in all the videos that you really need to get familiar with the underlying ideas, not just with specific moves. So for example, if they play d4, a very common move that is used to open the diagonals for the bishop and to control the center, I'm sure you've indeed seen it at some point, perhaps even multiple times in this particular opening. So what are we going to do? Well, following the logical reasoning that we would bring this bishop out to this square when the knight comes out, and considering that we need to wait a little bit longer before developing this one, we know that we should bring the knight out to f6. First knight to f6, and now when they play knight to f3, then yes, we'll pin with the bishop. This is the correct move order, alright? Let's continue, for example, with bishop to e2, as we've seen before. A very logical move, right? To defend against this pin. So, what should we do? Knight to c6, obviously. And watch out, now you might say, can't they come and attack you here? Well, that would be a serious mistake. Of course they can. And I'm going to show you again how to punish it. This would be a serious mistake. If you didn't like it before or didn't have time to give me a like, which is totally free, with this trap here, with this trick, please give me a like. It's completely free and it helps me keep uploading daily chess videos. And above all, if you want to see another video tomorrow, subscribe to the channel. Now, how do we punish this pawn advance? They attack our knight, and it might look dangerous at first, but we simply castle. In this position, we castle long. There's no need to move the knight, because if they capture it, we will capture their queen. In other words, this knight can't be moved. And not only that, but now we're going to take this pawn no matter what, since there's no good way to defend it. We're attacking it with 1, 2, and 3 pieces. It's just too difficult. And besides, we threaten to attack it again if they don't move the queen out of the way. Therefore, this pawn is sure to fall. Now then, let's continue, because of course the most common thing is that, well, it could be, that they play this move against you. It happened to me many times, but what happens if they don't play d5? So, let's see what happens if white continues, for example, with castling, a more standard move, not falling into any traps, let's put it that way. We also castle queenside and put tremendous pressure once again on this point, right? Knight, rook, and this pawn can't move. Notice that here, in this particular position, so many times people have unfortunately fallen into this very common mistake and played, for example, the move h3, where we simply eliminate the bishop, which is actually the key defender of the d4 square. And now, after that, we capture here and just look at this position. It's just way too advantageous for us. We have an extra pawn, and it's a central pawn with a rook on the queen's file that can create very powerful pins. If this queen moves away, well, here it can't move away, but if it goes somewhere else, we take here and open up the king's position with doubled pawns. So we have a hugely advantageous position. That's what I'm telling you. This opening is actually very easy to play. Notice that we've always made exactly the same moves, and no matter what our opponent does, we always end up with an extremely good position. Let's imagine they don't fall for this trap either. Let's rewind this a bit. Imagine that we have this position here on the board, and instead of playing h3, they actually react a bit better and decide to defend this pawn right here. So how can we continue from this point? Well, my idea in this situation is to break in the center with d5, which is a very typical and strong move in these kinds of positions. Now we're putting on tremendous pressure. Remember, they can't advance because that would be a huge mistake since we have a devastating pin here. But here, a lot of people, really a lot, fall into another trap. Seriously, you still haven't given it a like. Hurry, take a close look at this trap. They capture here because they think they have this check with capture and they'll win a pawn. But actually, this is a miscalculation that's way too simple and obvious for us. Why? Because what do we have to do? Take this knight, and if they capture with check, we simply just recapture with the knight. And now, look at this. Let's keep track. 2 pieces against a piece and a pawn here. So you can actually see the position even better. So we would be winning a piece. Way too easy. And you have no idea how many people fall for this trap due to a small miscalculation. And wait, because now comes the best part of all. Let me tell you, I won a tournament playing this line. The truth is, my opponents didn't expect it, and I was by no means the strongest player in the tournament. Look, okay? Here we've seen that taking here would be a serious mistake. But what happens if they do anything else? For example, if they chase this bishop away from here, well then, pay attention, okay? We're going to capture this knight, and after the recapture, not only do we win this pawn here, but we also win a piece. Look, protected by the rook and the knight, we're attacking both the knight and the bishop. And not only that, but we actually have an extremely strong pin on the queen. In fact, in this particular position, we will be winning the game as a result. There aren't just 1, 2, or 3 traps, there are simply too many to count. The opponent has to tread very carefully, because whatever they do, we're going to catch them with a trap. And you can see just how very easy it is to play, because we are always going to do exactly the same thing every time. So, it's super easy to play, and really super hard for our opposing player to defend against. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you definitely don't want to miss more videos like this, please subscribe to the channel. It's completely free. And let me tell you, if you give a like and leave a comment, I read absolutely all of them. You know I love reading what you all have to say. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.